An estimated 140 million cell phones containing $60 million worth of materials are dumped in U.S. landfills every year. This is the effect of planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence, defined by dictionary.com, is a policy of producing consumer goods that rapidly become obsolete and so require replacing. This is achieved by frequent changes in design, termination of the supply of spare parts, and the use of non-durable materials. Planned obsolescence is damaging both the economy and the environment by pushing consumers to be more wasteful by not repairing products and just buying a new product to replace it. The beginning of planned obsolescence is said to have started with General Motors in 1924 and light bulb companies in 1925. In the 1920s, the car fad was fading out, which was bad news for General Motors. General Motors is a car manufacturing company that was founded in 1908 by Edward Murphy. The problem was people who wanted cars already had them, so there was no need to buy another one. Competitors in the car industry were already starting to accept this decline. Henry Ford, owner of the Ford Motor Company, only had one model of his car, and for quite a long time, Ford cars were only sold in one color. Ford also kept lowering the price of his cars, seeing the decline in demand. However, General Motors did not want the car industry to fade into obscurity, so they came up with what is now known as planned obsolescence, which they called dynamic obsolescence. They decided that they would just persuade clients that one vehicle in a lifetime wasn't sufficient. They need to continue purchasing newer models to remain stylish. They had to make people see a car as more than just a means of transportation. They had to make people take pride in their car and make it a part of their personality. They did this by releasing new models, new colors, and faster engines every year. Before this strategy, people waited until their current car completely broke down until they bought a new one. In January of 1925, many light bulb companies met up in Geneva. They were named the Phobos Cartel. They formed to shorten the lifetime of light bulbs. They did this so people can buy more light bulbs. In an effort to lower the cost of producing light bulbs, the Phobos Cartel lowered the lifetime of light bulbs from 2,500 hours to 1,000 hours. And since all the light bulb companies were working together, competition was eliminated. They were able to raise the prices of the light bulbs to whatever they liked. This clearly hurt the consumer without the consumer being able to do anything about it. The Phobos Cartel was the first of its kind in history. It established that manufacturers can engage in planned obsolescence on a market scale and face no consequences. Competition in the light bulb market was nearly non-existent for 15 years. Some people believe that because of the lack of competition in the market, technological advancements were prevented. Planned obsolescence dramatically worsens the electronic waste problem worldwide. The parts used in manufacturing these electronics negatively affects the environment. Materials such as cadmium, mercury, and lead are all used, and when in large exposure can all have detrimental effects to humans and the environment. These effects can include damage to the brain and the central nervous system. Once cell phones get sent to the landfills, they sit there for a very long time, giving them enough time to release these dangerous materials into the atmosphere, which harms the people living near those landfills. Because of these reasons, manufacturers need to lower the rate they release new cell phones, and consumers need to do their part and not purchase a new cell phone just because it's a new cell phone. Consumers and companies are both making decisions for their own personal benefit without thinking about the effect their actions have on the environment. Weaker developing nations like Ghana have become the primary waste dump for bigger countries like America. Consumers love to just throw out products when a newer model is released. Nearly 42 million tons of electronic waste, everything from microwaves to washing machines, laptops, cell phones, TVs, and monitors, entered the global garbage stream in 2014. Ghana is a very clear example of this problem. It has become an electronic waste ground for North American and European countries. According to Dr. Kevin Bridges, who has visited scrapyards in China, India, and Ghana, many of the chemicals released are toxic. Some affect children's reproductive systems, while others affect brain development and the nervous system. In Ghana, workers, many of them children, may be substantially exposed to these hazardous chemicals. These chemicals get to Ghana by containers filled with broken computers, TVs, phones, and monitors. These obsolete electronics contain lead in hundreds of times above regular levels. Exporting electronic waste from Europe is illegal. However, European countries get around this by exporting the waste for the purpose of it getting recycled, even though most of the containers of waste end up in scrap yards, waiting to be burned and crushed by workers with no protective gear. Developing countries like Ghana are chosen by developed countries to get waste exported there because these countries have no regulation on the handling of the waste. So bigger countries take advantage of this and send their waste to countries with no regulations because it's cheaper than handling it domestically and without having to worry about the poisonous side effects. In 2017, Apple got sued because they admitted to slowing down older phones. Apple users have noticed this trend. Every time a new Apple product comes out, the current product stops working as well as it used to before. This makes the customer go buy the new Apple phone because they know their current phone is going to stop working soon. The lawsuit against Apple took place in Italy because Italy is the only nation to ban planned obsolescence outright. However, other countries in Europe are starting to follow their lead. The European Economic and Social Committee have tried to combat planned obsolescence by banning products that have built-in defects that will cause them to become obsolete. The committee wants manufacturers to offer replacement parts for products and to offer more information about a product's estimated lifetime so that consumers can make more informed decisions. Furthermore, the committee wants products to be guaranteed to last a certain minimum amount of time, which is currently not a legal requirement. In 2019, the French Senate created a bill about consumer rights. If the bill was passed, it would create a minimum 3-year or 5-year guarantee that the product sold will not break down in that time span. North American countries like America are moving very slow on outlawing planned obsolescence. Some people believe the reason for America not outlawing planned obsolescence is because as a country, they are more focused on the rights of businesses than the rights of consumers. Even though there are not currently any national laws that prohibit planned obsolescence in the United States, the Consumer Product Safety Commission does have the power to issue durability standards if it chooses to exercise it, although it has never used its power to interfere with planned obsolescence. Some people argue that there are good forms of planned obsolescence. They believe that some forms of it stimulate the economy and are basically inevitable. This may be a shock because when people think of planned obsolescence, their mind immediately goes to big tech companies like Apple and Samsung poisoning our phones. Even though extreme cases like those do happen, some forms of planned obsolescence are needed, so consumers need to learn to differentiate between the bad form and the good forms. The bad forms of planned obsolescence focuses on adding unnecessary changes that does not improve the performance of the technology at all. Its only purpose is to negatively affect the device's life cycle. This form of obsolescence is termed pseudo-functional obsolescence. The forms of planned obsolescence that some people believe stimulate the economy are called value engineering and functional obsolescence. According to Investopedia, value engineering is a systematic and organized approach to providing the necessary functions in a project at the lowest cost. Value engineering promotes the substitution of materials and methods with less expensive alternatives without sacrificing functionality. Cell phones, for example, do not last for 30 years. However, cell phone manufacturers can make them last for that long if they wanted to. People that support value engineering argue that this is a good thing, because the useful life of a cell phone is limited to only a few years due to the rapid rate of technological improvement in the field. This means that it's wasteful to build a cell phone with a physical lifespan much longer than its useful life. It makes sense that cell phones are built out of inexpensive plastic parts. This ensures a more affordable product. If a cell phone were not value engineered, if it's made out of, like titanium for example, it would last longer than anyone would want it to. It would cost more, and it would use up more resources. According to Investopedia, functional obsolescence is the reduction of an object's usefulness or desirability because of an outdated design feature that cannot be easily changed. So basically, functional obsolescence is when an innovation is introduced into the marketplace, making an older product obsolete. An example of this would be the evolution of phones. Starting with the simple cell phone, they were only able to make cell phone calls. Now cell phones can send and receive text messages, emails, photos, and videos, access the internet, play games, listen to music, and use GPS. This is all a result of functional obsolescence because over time, technology increased, so newer technology made the older technology outdated and unwanted. Functional obsolescence does create more waste. However, some people believe that the trade-off is that the consumers get a newer, more advanced product. This is one of the better forms of planned obsolescence because the consumer actually gets a superior product, unlike pseudo-functional obsolescence. Pseudo-functional obsolescence is what people usually think about when they hear planned obsolescence. Pseudo-functional obsolescence appears to introduce innovative changes into a product, but in reality does not. In fact, pseudo-functional obsolescence often forcibly outmoves an otherwise useful product. An example of this is the existence of tons of different battery chargers and batteries for electronic equipment. It is just assumed by most people that the differences in these batteries exist for some technological reason, but that is not true. Most of these changes have no purpose. The only purpose they have is to make older models incompatible with newer models, so consumers have more of a reason to get rid of their older models that works perfectly fine for newer models. Bad obsolescence consists of introducing mere cosmetic changes that improve neither utility nor performance and makes repairing your device a lot harder. Even though planned obsolescence is a major problem in the economy today, there are solutions that consumers can take to fight back against businesses that implement this business practice. First, consumers need to apply pressure on their government to make planned obsolescence illegal in their country. Not only does it need to be made illegal, the sentence for committing planned obsolescence needs to come with jail time, not just a fine. Simply giving the business a fine will not be big enough punishment because the people that are committing planned obsolescence are big businesses. So if they are fined, it will not affect them very much at all. They can just pay the fine. That's why if a business gets found guilty of committing planned obsolescence, the CEO or the highest ranking member should be given a prison sentence and the business should be fined. When a product isn't working correctly anymore, two options often come to mind: return or replace. After a certain amount of time, the option to return goes away. Usually, consumers run to the store to replace the product, but that is not necessary. More times than not, repairing is the best option, but it is discouraged by producers. Many of today's electronics are designed to keep us out. They lack screws, are held together by glue, or have warranty policies that end if the consumer messes with the inside of the electronic in any way. Some require parts that only the manufacturer knows how to get a hold of. After consumers try to actually fix their products, they will soon grow accustomed to it, and they will not have to buy a completely new product anymore. Educating the consumer is the best way to combat planned obsolescence. The first goal of consumer education is just to get people to believe that planned obsolescence is real. Many people don't know very much about how the products they buy work internally. Therefore, it would be difficult for them to understand the difference between products that are purposely made to become obsolete and products that are built to last. And all of this information is purposely hard to get a hold of, so the regular consumer is left blind. Once consumers get better educated on planned obsolescence, they can make better decisions on what to buy and what not to buy. Consumers can also band together and file complaints on businesses that are known to purposely make their products obsolete. If enough people file complaints, it will put pressure on the business to change their practices. These are my references. Thank you very much for watching.